Okay, let's start with the demand. Tell me now the definition of demand. What do you understand by it?
The willingness and the ability to buy product.
Now, if I say I want a Mercedes, is it a demand, Rihanna? No. So, Rihanna, why it is and why it is not?
Wanting a car won't be demand because it's not affecting anything. I mean, I can say I want a unicorn, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely, yes, good.
Wanting won't affect the economy.
Yeah, it won't affect the economy. We want so many things, but we can't have it. Economically, it only becomes demand that, when the producers or the businesses or investors or the government take it seriously and they start putting the resources and producing that product, a good or a service, for those people who want it, but who also has the ability to pay for it. Can we say demand is willingness and ability? Okay, write it down. Demand is the willingness and ability to buy a product, to buy a good or a service at a given price in a given time period. Okay, so this definition comes for 2 marks. As it is, you have to write and nothing more. You get to want it. Don't miss anything there. If you don't write in a given time period, you will get 1 mark.
Understand what given in a time period means.
Okay, so when we say demand, we are talking about demand for onions in the month of September, or demand for onions in this first quarter, or demand for cars for a company could be in 2019. That's a given time period. You have to specify, you have to, when you look at the demand statistics. Now, right on, factors affecting demand. First is price. Rihanna, can you tell me one factor?
Income,
Rishi, another factor?
advertisement,
So, advertisement.
Availability
Availability of what?
of the product, like
What the supply हो गया? That has to, we are assuming it's the companies will give us. We are talking about demand. हमारी demand को क्या affect करेगा? Anything else to think of that you as a consumer get affected by demand for anything? What are the factors, Sanjay? Okay, let me share then.
will one of them be like what is like the fad right now? Like what is the fad right now? What is everyone else getting?
like the trend.
Okay, trend. So we can term it as, yes, it matters. So we can term it as changes in fashion. When the trend changes, then
What if I remember reading this that changes in the price of like another product.
taste and preferences.
Complementary goods. Change in price of complementary goods.
Yes. So we can say
An increase in price of competition products.
price of. Let me take it under one heading: relating goods. I'll explain both complement and substitution. Okay, let's take it from here now. Let's say price. So now, if there is something where price has increased, will the demand be more or less?
Demand will decrease.
Yes.
Demand will decrease. Absolutely. So if you go to the market and you want to buy mangoes, but mangoes are very highly priced, and no, you want to buy fruit for the family, and you can buy apples and mangoes and other pomegranate and all. So if mangoes are new and it's very expensive, naturally its demand will be less initially, and when you go later after a month and if it becomes cheap, the demand will be high. More people will have the ability to buy it, right? So this, of course, is a major factor which affect consumer, the price factor. Now, income. Okay, one thing in economics when you learn with me, so there are certain symbols we will keep using. So it becomes easy for you to remember that. Now, income in economics is like how price is represented by P and demand by D. Income, you might think, will be represented by I. We will not use I there because I in economics is investments. Okay, later you will study that. So income in economics is represented by Y. So as an economic student, you should know if in your book anywhere Y is mentioned, which will come in macroeconomics, it's a GDP, it's an income. So rise in income, will the demand be more or high?
Demand will increase.
Yes, of course, it will be high. Now this is known as inverse relation. Inverse relation means one is high, the other is low. And this is the direct relation. That means one variable is high, the other is also high. Okay, that's how these two variables in economics work. Now, tell me about advertising. Higher the advertising done by the companies.
Demand will increase because people have
Of
more
course,
knowledge.
people know about it, so demand will increase. Like when mobile phone was just introduced, and suppose the factory is in Haryana, now only people staying near that factory will know, oh, there is something like phone coming where now you can talk without wires. But how will the world know about it? How will the people know in other cities? Unless it is advertised. So that's why companies spend so much of marketing and advertising budget on hoardings. And earlier it used to be pamphlets and radio, television advertising, and now the world, it has completely changed. So now we have social media where people advertise on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. You must have seen. That is so that people are aware about the product they sell and their demand increases, right? Now, there is change in fashion, what you talked about, change in trends. Now, when I was your age, there was no single boy who will wear a pink t shirt. They'll feel, oh, no, no, they'll feel like I'm a girl. My friends will laugh at me. Okay. And then later, I saw so many shops with pink t shirts and, and many boys started wearing it. So it was a change in trend, change in fashion. So pink color was in trend and it was looking good on boys. Sometimes we have that kind of a mindset. Then if sometime denim will be in fashion, sometimes skirts will be in fashion, sometimes shorts will be in fashion, sometimes salwar suit, sometimes modern sarees. Earlier it was no, saree is very typical and traditional, but now there are modern ways of wearing that saree. Sometime back my servant last year, before COVID of course, so my servant was wearing a jeans which was torn. So I asked him, I said, you become so fashionable, you bought a torn jean because torn jeans are more expensive than the normal jean. He said no, my jean, it's quite old and वो नीचे से खराब हो रही थी, so I just cut it and put pieces into it. So now it becomes, it looks modern. And so change in fashion. So when this kind of a fashion comes, then all the shopkeepers and all the they clear off their stocks, the old stocks, and they put the new stocks at a higher price. So change in fashion all affects demand, of course. So new trends increases the demand. Then changes in taste and preferences. Any example can you think of? Change of taste of people. Okay. So for example,
Like probably cereal, like when it was just introduced in India, people weren't used to having cereal for breakfast, but now it is like people have developed the taste.
absolutely. Also, they become more health conscious now. Yeah. Earlier, yoga was very, acha kon yoga and meditation and stuff. They were like, okay, we need to go to gym and all. They want to feel that modern approaches. So since the time Baba Ramdev came into our lives, yoga become a fashion statement also. So many yoga schools, yoga teacher, yoga classes, yoga mats, and aloe vera juice. So now we have people, then in the shops, in the chemist shops and grocery shops and online, you'll find all this Karela juice and Bel Patthar juice and aloe vera
People
juices.
have become more health conscious. There are
More
shops catered to just that. Like they've increased the businesses just like that. There are health
absolutely.
shops
There is a
included.
Yes, so there is a huge change in the taste and preferences of people, and they are moving toward because they can see a lot of diseases coming and other things. So they are becoming more aware of that. So they are realizing, no, we want to look healthy and we don't want to depend on medicines when we fall sick. So, so such kind of food, organic food, and the stuff like, say if there is an now we were talking about advertising. Now advertising could be positive or negative. If there is a advertisement, there's an article in the newspaper that coffee leads to diabetes or it increases your cholesterol. So what will be the change in the demand for coffee? It will fall. Kushi, I can't hear you.
Demand will decrease.
Yes, demand will decrease. So the taste and preference of people will be towards better things, better drinks. So their taste will change from coffee to probably a green tea, or then the demand for green tea will be high, or some other like now these companies have started selling turmeric and other things mixed, and it's a health drink. Your moms also might be giving you sometime. It's a health drink, so eat.
So
Drink.
the demand for a competition good would go up.
Yeah. So changes in taste and preferences affect demand. Then coming to price of related goods. So let's divide related good into two categories. One is substitutes, the other is complementary. Now let's take say okay, coffee and tea. Though you might always argue, no, मुझे तो coffee चाहिए तो coffee ही चाहिए. I can't have tea. Yeah. So when we talk of any example, we are taking an average person in an economy and majority of people. Like we are very less population is who live in cities and who have that kind of affordability. 70%, 67% of our population is in rural areas, and there are so many other middle class and tier 2, tier 3 cities. So an average person who has a fixed salary and with a lot of responsibilities of children and running the house and all, for him after breakfast, if he is having coffee and he sees coffee prices have shot up, he'll tell his wife, okay, I don't mind having tea after my breakfast. It's okay. So what happens is if the price of coffee is rising in the market, so naturally demand for coffee will fall. We know the law of demand. If price increases, demand falls. Now what will happen to tea company? What will happen? The price for tea?
The price for tea will increase.
Sorry. Demand for tea.
The demand will definitely increase.
Yes, it will increase. And why this happens is because they are substitute. If price of coffee is increasing, so I as a tea company, हमें बैठे बैठे advantage मिल गया. So I'm not doing anything. I'm not reducing my price so that people buy my product more. So in a way, it's a competitor or a substitute product. जिसका price बढ़ गया, probably it wasn't a good harvest, and climatic factors, and so the prices increase. So their demand has fallen. People have shifted to tea. Can you tell me, Kushi, what kind of a relationship is this in case of substitute? Positive or negative?
No, I don't understand by positive or negative.
Okay. So inverse or direct?
Of price of coffee and demand
Price of coffee and demand for tea.
is direct.
It's direct. Yeah, as I shared with you, if both the variables are moving in the same direction, whether both are rising or both are falling, it's a direct relation. And this is also a positive relation. Okay, later you will study about it. In a little bit, I'll teach you an elasticity, though it's touched upon more in IBDP and A levels. There's a lot of calculations and a lot of other understanding. But yeah, you as an economics student, as I shared, I want my students to have a little more knowledge than what other children have. Okay, so it's a direct relation and it's also a positive relation. Now let's move to complementary goods. In case of complementary now, let's take okay, petrol and car. So if price of petrol is rising, demand for petrol will fall. What will happen to demand for car?
Lot of all.
Absolutely. It will fall. So price of petrol rises in the market, though petrol is a little inelastic good that people have to buy. But a lot of people who were taking loans, who were planning to buy a car this year, then they'll say, I was planning to buy a car, but in Mumbai, like, then you have to buy a parking, then if you need a driver for, so that the driver can take the family somewhere. I anyways go to, say, Andheri to Churchgate in the AC bus or first class train. I will not be able to travel with car. On top of that, if petrol prices are high, then he will postpone his purchase. He will say it doesn't make sense. Now we have Ola and all. We don't need a car. Whenever the family needs to go, I'll book an Ola and they'll have a ready driver and so that's why so many times we see in the newspaper car company sales are falling, car companies are giving discounts on cars, and because what they predicted also depended on the petrol price, or car companies are moving towards electric cars or diesel cars, changing their model, joining hands with other companies or coming out with other products. Why this happens? Why does the companies make this decision? Because if their sales are getting affected due to a complementary good, they have to. It's not that it's their mistake, but then it's dependent on the other product price also. Okay. So yeah. So now what kind of a relation is this, Rihanna? Inverse.
Between price and demand,
Yeah, I've circled that. Price of petrol and demand for car.
between inverse relation.
Yes, because both are moving in the opposite direction, and we can also call it as a negative relation. So it's clear till here? Any doubt here? That? Okay, let's move with the diagram of demand. Okay, what are the x's on y and x axis of demand?
Price and quantity.
Price and quantity demanded. पूरा लिखना है. Okay, you have to write full in your examination. Price and quantity demanded. Now, let's look at this. If P is the price of apple, say 100 rupees a kg, and Q is the quantity of apples sold in the market, say 100 kgs. Now, if the price of apples increase, what will happen? The quantity demanded falls. Similarly, if P was the original price and if the price falls, the quantity demanded rises. Now, this is called movement along the demand curve. This is the diagram for movement. And this is the diagram for shifts. Movement along the demand curve, so it happens due to changes in price of a product, only price. Also, when price moves from P to P1, quantity moves from Q to Q1. This is known as contraction. If price moves from P to P2 and quantity moves from Q to Q2, this is known as expansion. Okay, now understand this. Movement along the demand curve. I'll give you time to write. Pay attention when I'm speaking. Khushi? Movement along the demand curve only happens due to changes in price. See, here we discussed a lot of factors affecting demand, but we are only talking about one factor here, which is price. Price creates movement. All other factors, if it is increasing or decreasing demand, will create a shift. Always remember that. Okay, so whenever in your case study there is a change happening in the price of any product, then you will make a movement diagram. If it is demand for coffee is rising due to rise in income of people, then it will be a shift to the right. So that's about movement. Now, another thing here is, second point I've written, when the price is moving from P to P1, that means when price increases and quantity demanded falls, this is known as contraction of demand. And if price falls and quantity demanded increases, this is known as expansion. In shift of demand, why does a shift happen? If this was the original price of apples and original quantity, I'm not labeling it again. You all have to write their price and quantity demanded. Okay, so if this is the original price and quantity, why will a demand curve shift from D to D1? Can you give me one example? Why will it happen?
Increase in income.
Absolutely correct. Due to increase in income. So any non-price factor that we discussed above, increase in advertising, good publicity. If your price of substitute increases, people will buy from you. If your price of complementary good falls, your sales will increase. So all this will shift the demand from D to D1. New curve will be made. And when you take it to x-axis, the quantity will increase. So we can say shifts happen due to changes in non-price factors. So when it is increasing from D to D1, this is known as increase in demand. And when it is moving from D to D2, this is known as decrease in demand. Is this part clear? Yeah. Again, I'm repeating. Both of you look here. Shifts in the demand curve happen, shifting to the right or to the left of the entire demand curve happens due to changes in non-price factors affecting demand, which could be changes in taste and fashion and preferences, price of related goods like substitute and complementary being changed, advertisement, positive or negative publicity, or changes in income or any other factor. So any factor other than price will create a shift of the curve. Now, when it moves from D, the original demand, to D1, we call it increase. In case of movement, what do we call it? Expansion. Now we call it increase. Again, at same way, when we move from D to D2, that means, okay, I forgot to make the curve here, not curve, just touching this point. So when we move from Q to D2, so the quantity reduces here. So this we call it decrease. But in movement, we call it contraction. So demand, the whole concept is clear to both of you? Great. If you found this video helpful, do drop a like and share it with your friends. If you want to see more such videos, subscribe to this channel and let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. Hope to see you in the next episode of Dimplenomics. Till then, keep learning, keep growing. All the best. God bless.